for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Today's Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. 196 days into the new year, only 169 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. A total undisclosed location, but it is beautiful. Yeah, just look at it. Right? Yeah, man. It's cool. It's even cool in that direction. It's great. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? How you doing? All right. I'm ready for this. Tonight, very special guest. Debbie Kauble joins us for the first time. That's right, Kathy Davis. What? Yeah, that's right. Kathy Davis and Bud Hopkins' book, Intruders. That's a pseudonym, obviously. Debbie Kauble is with it. You like that? The D and the K and the K and the D, the play on that? Yeah, there you go. Debbie Kauble is with us tomorrow night. It's Ross. I didn't just do that. Ross Coulthart, live from Australia. What an amazing week on the show. And how about that phone call last night? Right? After Grant Cameron. Rhea. Wow. I played that for Debbie right before the show tonight. I said, Debbie, check this out. I did. I went back and listened to it a couple of times today just to soak that up again, like a biscuit and some gravy on your plate. You just soak it up. That's what I did today. All right. Well, today I went live with Billy Carson, and we went live on all of his channels and then all of my channels. We did 2 separate live streams today. All about what's going on this Saturday, July 17th. Today's Wednesday. You've got 3 days left. 3 days. Today, tomorrow, and Friday. Today's Wednesday. You got 3 days left to get your tickets. July 17th. Our Forbidden Disclosure online conference with Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, Lou Elizondo, Nick Pope, Billy Carson, and myself. That's 6 of us, 11 hours all day live event. We've got the links in the description box below. You can click on that. And Billy hit everybody with this today. Right now, use the promo code DISCLOSURE at checkout, all caps, disclosure, all caps at checkout, $10 off. That's right. Right now. Go and get your tickets. This is the event of the year. To get all of us in one spot at one time speaking about disclosure, 6 different mindsets, a very broad audience that can come in. No matter what you think you know about disclosure or what your position, you're going to get to listen to all of these different points of view about what is going on. This is a huge event. Get your tickets now. Click on the link in the video description box below. We've got it up in Twitter. We've got it up on social media. We've got a banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. It's all right there. Promo code right now at checkout. Disclosure, all caps, $10 off. All right. Let's get this show cracking. You can follow me on Twitter right now at jchurchradio. At jchurchradio. No audio on Spreaker Paranormal. Let's see. Check. Oh, Houston, we do have a problem. Houston, we do have a problem. Very interesting. Okay, hold on. I will get this cracking now. And boom. Done. And let's see. Yeah. Wow. I'm going to do this real quick. Check. Oh, we don't. We don't have audio. Okay. I don't know what else to do, but I'm going to do this. Everybody just be patient. And I don't understand. Yep. But it's going out on YouTube. So if you jump over to YouTube, everything is fine. But I just now noticed we don't have anything happening over here. I'm going to stay live though on YouTube. I'm going to wait for our network computer to reboot, and once that is rebooted, we should be fine. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, this computer's acting funky. Yeah, that's acting strange. But I'm going to keep moving forward. Breaking news. Let's just get straight to it. Invasive football-sized goldfish have been found in a Minnesota lake. Burnsville, Minnesota, which is south of Minneapolis, has posted pictures on social media of some of the whoppers that were caught during an ongoing survey of fish in Keller Lake. The city urged residents not to release their unwanted pet fish. They caught 10 goldfish last week and another 18 this week. Each was more than a foot long. Goldfish from your aquarium, little baby, this big, foot long, largest 15 inches and weighing 4 pounds. Goldfish are native to China and Eastern Asia and would have been in the lake for several years to reach this size. Absolutely incredible. Now, most social media networks have tried a version of Snapchat's stories, but Twitter is the first to admit its experiment with disappearing content failed. The company announced today that it will kill off Fleets, its disappearing posts product, on August 3rd, less than a year after introducing it, because users were less interested in sharing their fleeting thoughts on Twitter than expected. And to be honest, until today, I had never heard of Fleets or that Snapchat was even still a thing. Fleets are posts that disappear after 24 hours. And now the whole platform will disappear in about 2 weeks. There you go. Okay. Man, I had to do a manual shutdown, hard shutdown on the network computer. Yep, it's the way it goes. Now, the dictionary.com has just added 300 new words. That's right. My favorites, yeet. An exclamation of enthusiasm, approval, triumph, pleasure, joy, etc. Next word, zaddy. An attractive man who's also stylish, charming, and self-confident. And they also added oof. An exclamation used to sympathize with someone else's pain or dismay, or to express one's own. And then my 4 favorites, and I don't know why these weren't already in the dictionary because I've been using them most of my life, which is, first one, y'all. That's right, means you, right? To 2 or more people. That's right, y'all. It's been added. You all, which means you, or directed to 1 or more people, and use, which means you, usually used in addressing 2 or more people. And my favorite, Ewans. Ewans has been added to the dictionary. I thought, I've been using that my whole life, which means you, used in direct address, usually to 2 or more persons. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. Researchers have found evidence of the oldest known use of cosmetics at a dig site in the Balkans. In their paper published in the Journal of Archaeological Science reports, Bein Kramberger, Christoph Berthold, and Christiane Spiteri described the ceramic bottles that held the cosmetics and what they found inside them. The bottles have been dated back to a time between 4350 and 4100 BC, making them by far the oldest known evidence of cosmetic use in Europe. It also puts them farther back in time for cosmetics use in both Mesopotamia and Egypt. With that, let me get this moving over here. Boom, 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 boom. And I'll wait for that to boot. And now I'm going to say, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to Jane Lynch. Jane Lynch is 61, of course, a star in Best in Show and A Mighty Wind and all that Christopher Guest goodness. She is 61 years old today. Our dead guy's birthday today is Harry Dean Stanton, 1926 to 2017, died at the age of 91. Harry, in a career that spanned more than 6 decades, appeared in films such as Cool Hand Luke, Kelly's Heroes, Dillinger, The Godfather Part 2, of course, Alien, Escape from New York, Christine, Repo Man. He was great in Pretty in Pink. He might have stole that film. The Last Temptation of Christ, Wild at Heart, The Green Mile, Alpha Dog, and Inland Empire. Harry died on September 15, 2017 at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center right here in Los Angeles, California. He was 91 years old. On this day in history, 1881, Sheriff Pat Garrett shoots Billy the Kid to death at the Maxwell Ranch in New Mexico. Here's your Fader fact. The inside of the Leaning Tower of Pisa is completely empty. Well, there's air, but that's it. And that's your Fader fact. If you've never seen pictures of the inside of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, go and check it out. Ain't nothing there. Tonight, we have very special guest Debbie Kauble joins us, and I don't know why this computer's not firing up. Let me try it again. Let me go. Come on. You gotta love live radio. I'm doing this live. Let's see. Why isn't this computer working? I don't know. It's bizarre. That's my old faithful, too. Man, it's just taking its sweet old time. I don't get it. Uh-oh, I see action. I do. It must have been Rhea's phone call last night. It's Rhea's phone call. Yeah, it is not booting, folks. There is something wrong with that computer. The software, I thought I was seeing some action. You just got to love this. Everything here, and this is what's beautiful about this studio, usually. Everything works. It's automated. I just click on a couple of things and everything fires up all by itself. And this is strange. This is strange to me to see this happening on a very expensive computer too as well. You know, it was really funny. This morning it did an automatic update. And I thought it did that like 2 days ago. Now, I run 6 computers, and they all update at the same time, right? They all will go through the same notification process. And this one did it all by itself. And now it's just sitting there. It's not opening up the software. It's acting like it's wanting to. Huh. Wow. You got to love it. All right. Maybe I'll get it running during the commercial break. And, yeah, I'm going to forget about it. I'll get back to it during the commercial break. And let me hit this River Moon coffee. See, I don't panic anymore. Things just happen. They just go. And when they do, you just run with it. I wanted to talk about what happens when you first jump into the study of UFOs. And I've seen this over and over again. But one of the things that happens, and it's a certain guarantee, is a giant deep dive into all things Egypt of the ancient kind. It just happens, and it's natural. I've gone back and listened to so many researchers at the start of their careers, and they all pretty much do the same thing. They'll talk about UFOs, but they'll also talk about ancient Egypt because they are doing, it's what happens. It's this natural thing. Now, it happens for a variety of reasons, but the main thing that happens is that once you scratch the surface of Egypt, you find out very quickly that everything that we are told about its history is total BS. It's this inquisitive mind. You know, you're interested in UFOs and maybe ghosts and the paranormal, and there's Egypt right in front of you. And it doesn't take much, because the more you dig deep, the more you find out that it's just a big bowl of wrong. The other thing that makes Egypt research so much fun is that it's just beautiful, first off, right? You have the art, you have the sculpture, you have the temples, you have the gold, right? And when you compare Egypt to everything else that was going on at that time, you come to realize that something just ain't right. And remember, as cool as Greece was and is, it didn't happen for another 2,000 years after Giza. Rome was 400 years after Greece, right? That's how crazy Egypt is. And as a researcher with an inquisitive mind, ancient Egypt is just the place to get your world history conspiracy game on. Seriously, it's just too easy, and it's so much fun. Well, last week, Richard Dolan and I did just that. We sat down, we took a break in the middle of filming, and somebody else was on the set, and Richard and I had some time, and we just sat down and talked about Egypt. In fact, it was Richard that brought it up, not me. And it turns out he knows a lot. And, well, he should. You know, he's an educated history scholar. But like I said, when you jump into the UFO game, it's Egypt that is brought into the rabbit hole early on. And it's just the way that it is, right? But for me, in this conversation, I brought up the few points about ancient Egypt that just don't make any sense. And the first thing is this. The Narmer palette. the Narmer palette. The Narmer palette, and you can look it up, was created, allegedly, around 3000 BC. And it's about this big, right? Stone. And it has everything on both sides. It's a two-sided palette. I think it's two different artists. But it's got hieroglyphics, right? For starters. And it shows Egypt's first king, Narmer, who unites Upper and Lower Egypt and becomes the world's first king. That's right. But even that is not what's most important. It's the date that Egyptologists want us to believe was the start of, everything. Okay. But what is most important is what happened before and after this date of 3000 BC, right? Which is that, before this, before 3000 BC, Egyptians were wandering the desert as Stone Age people. 3000 BC and before, right? Now, and 200 years later, after 3000 BC, wait for it, 200 years later, they were building the Giza Plateau. 200 years later, they went from Stone Age people wandering the desert aimlessly, right? To a fully upright, organized, copper tools, making beer and wine, writing, mining, cooking, math, geometry, architecture, engineering, and moving 100-ton stones around the country for fun. Nah, I just don't buy it. I really don't. But even if we just focused on Giza, that would just be too much. And I get it. But nope, there's more. There's much more. During a 300-year span, the Egyptians built, again, wait for it, not one, not two, but 15 ginormous pyramids. At least the ones that we know of. But we also lose sight of a couple of things that Egyptologists never want to talk about, and that is this: the population, or lack of. Egypt's population around 3000 BC, it wasn't much. Some guesstimates are around 300,000 people for the entire country, man, woman, and child. At around 2650 BC, around the time that the last stones were placed on the Great Pyramid, allegedly, that number rose to around 600,000. These are the accepted numbers that are out there. So the population doubled. But half are women. Another third are children, which leaves maybe about 150,000 men in the entire country. Now, how many of those 150,000 men are too sick? How many are too old? Well, we don't know. But let's take a crack at it. Let's be generous and say, there's 100,000 able-bodied men in the entire country getting stuff done, getting everything done. Okay, so if you break it down a little bit more, 20,000 built the Great Pyramid over a 20-year period, according to the history books. But they don't tell you the real story. And that is that Khufu and Khafre, the two big pyramids on the Giza Plateau, were built at the same time. That's not 4.5 million stones cut. That's 9 million stones cut. That's not 20,000 men. That's 40,000. So you have to ask yourself, who was running the country? Who was farming? Who was building homes? Who was building the temples? Who was building the other pyramids? Who was left to defend the country from invaders? Was there even a military? Now, there's one last thing to ponder. How much of Egypt's resources and economy were used for these huge projects? engineering locations, one after another, all year after year, for hundreds of years. It would seem to me, thinking very logically, that every man, woman, and child in the country only worked on building these temple complexes. There isn't another way to look at it. All of this 2,000 years before Greece got a foothold. Really think about that. Now, I know that there are some out there that want to point out that, Mesopotamia and ancient Sumer with their list of first things, and I get that. And I'm one to acknowledge some of that for sure. And some of it is cool. But none of it is Great Pyramid cool. Cuneiform writing, it's pretty amazing. But it ain't Egyptian hieroglyphics cool. And all of this happened seemingly overnight. And it just doesn't make any sense. This is what I talked about with Richard Dolan, the UFO historian, last week. I need you to look up everything that I just stated, everything that I just said, the population, the timing, the amount of pyramids, the projects, the temple projects. Go and look at that. Go and look at the Step Pyramid. Look at the kilometers of tunnels that were built underneath that pyramid. Kilometers. It's a huge, huge complex. And all of this is going on at the same time. A couple years later, they're flattening the Giza Plateau to build some pyramids in the Sphinx. No, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. And that's the deep dive that all ufologists take at the beginning of their career. Egypt is right there. It's a gift. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Debbie Kauble joins us, and hopefully I'll have a computer system up and running when I come back. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Debbie Kauble joins us. Tomorrow night, Ross Coulthart, live from Australia, completing this amazing week here on the show. Need my coffee. Tonight, it's all about Debbie, though. She joins us for the first time, and we are going to discuss her life of ET contact in Naptown. Debbie was the central figure in Bud Hopkins' New York Times bestseller, Intruders, The Incredible Visitation at Kauble Woods, as well as the 1992 CBS miniseries Intruders, using the pseudonym Kathy Davis. Like I said, KD. I like that. DK, KD. I'm pretty smart. In 1992, she revealed her true identity and co-authored with her sister Kathy Mitchell, Abducted, the story of the Intruders Continues. Deb has just finished a revised, expanded edition of Abducted entitled Extraordinary Contact, Life Beyond Intruders. The links for everything are over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can go and get yourself your own copy of the book. She co-hosted her own podcast, Midwest Paratalk, with Gregg Cable. Together with Gregg, they co-founded the paranormal research team, the Paranormal Underground. And her special interest in the paranormal research is with the electronic voice phenomena, my favorite. And she has collected impressive examples over the last several years. Her website is debshome.com. Again, the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. I would like to welcome to Fade to Black for the first time, Debbie Kauble. Debbie, how are you?
I'm good. And how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. It seems like we were just hanging out yesterday, but I guess we were.
I guess we were, yeah.
I guess we were. But Debbie, you get the first-time guest disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way, which is this, Deb. It's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. And where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go. See, you thought it was going to be something deep and heavy, didn't you?
I wasn't quite sure what to expect.
Now, let's get a few things out of the way before... okay. I had a chance to hang out with Debbie all of last week, and I had a lot of amazing conversations with Deb, but I knew that she was coming on the show, so I wanted to hold off on all of that conversation and save it tonight for the show so we could just banter back and forth. But we are from the same, not only hometown, but we went to the same high school. We graduated from the same high school. We hung out at the same spots. The east side of Indianapolis and Warren Central High School and that whole area, a very tight-knit community, and we all had the same things to do each night. And going through that with you was just absolutely amazing to me. And your encounters happened while I was still in Indianapolis. I didn't come out to LA until 1984. Okay, so, and I know about the high strangeness of Indianapolis, but having this connection with you was pretty strange and pretty bizarre. You know, how many radio hosts have you talked to about the Walker Career Center?
I know, let alone both attended it as students.
Yes, I mean, right?
I was blown away by the whole thing, too. When you started talking about it, I was like, what? Wait. Oh, you're kidding me. And then that explained it, because when I met you, I felt like, you know, I was just hanging out with one of the guys from my old neighborhood. And then I understood why, because I was.
You were hanging out with the guy from the old neighborhood. And when you sit and talk about our streets that we know, you know, 21st and Midhofer and German Church Road and Post Road and Franklin and Washington Square and the Dairy Queen at 10th and Post, you know, bringing up these things, it was just so awesome for me. You know what was really fun? You know what was really funny? Sitting at the table with us, everybody was Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber, Richard Dolan, William Henry, and you and myself, and they are just listening to us, right? Yeah. They were just like, this is too crazy. And it was so much fun.
Did you go to the Bo Ricks on 10th Street? Because I used to work there and I might have cut your hair.
Yeah, exactly. Which was literally next door to my house. So, yeah, absolutely bizarre. Okay, so getting that part out of the way, I want the audience to know about this strange connection between the two of us. And so with that, let's have a conversation tonight. I want to start with the basics before we get to your encounters. I want to jump ahead a little bit and ask what everybody is wondering. How did you meet Bud Hopkins? How did this connection happen?
Well, I had read the book Missing Time a few months before the June 30, 1983 incident happened. And I had picked it up in the library with a whole bunch of other books. And as I tried to read that book, I would read a little bit on it, and then I'd have this massive panic attack, so I'd have to stop. I never really finished it. But the way I read a book, it's kind of weird. I look at all the pictures first, then I go on the back of the book, and I look from the back forward, and then I decide if I want to spend time reading the whole thing. And I had noticed that there was an address on the back of that book where I could write to the guy who wrote that book if I felt I had some kind of an experience like what he was writing about. And so after June 30, 1983 happened and I started to remember the bits and pieces of that night, I started thinking about that book. And I went back to the library and got it, and I wrote to him. I wrote like a 14-page letter with a whole bunch of Polaroids I stuck in it of the backyard and the mark that had left. And I actually started the letter out telling him about an encounter that my older sister had back in like 1965, where she had taken my mom to a bingo game one night, dropped her off, and on the way home felt this compulsion to pull into this parking lot at this church at 10th and Franklin. And when she did, she went around to the back, and there was a huge UFO just hovered real low above the back parking lot of this church. And she always told us that it took her and her whole car up. The next thing she remembers is waking up in her car in the parking lot. It's dark. Not only is it dark, it's like hours later, and it's time to go pick Mom up. So I wrote about that because it sounded a lot like what Bud had written about in Missing Time. And then at the end, I kind of like, oh, and by the way, here's all these pictures, and this happened to, in my backyard, and I remember this weird stuff. So I gave this letter to my mom, and she later admitted that she toted it around in her pocketbook for, a few weeks and really did not want to mail it. She just told Bud later, she said, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to open up that can of worms. And, but one day she found herself standing in front of a mailbox, and she suddenly realized that she had that letter in her purse. So she pulled it out and dropped it in the mail. And a few weeks later, I came home from being out one night with friends, and Mom was laying on the couch, and she says, hey, that guy that you wrote that letter to called. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. She had taken down the number, so when I went to call him back, I was shaking so hard that I could barely dial the phone. And my heart was pounding. I could feel it in my throat and see it in my eyes. And then he answered, and then from that point on, I sold my washer and dryer that was in storage to get enough money for a bus ticket to go to New York and see him. And then halfway there, I had this massive panic attack on the bus. Like I was thinking to myself, you're a mother. What is wrong with you? This guy could be an axe murderer, and you're going to New York City, big New York City, all by yourself, and you have no idea who you're going to meet, and this is insane. So just let me off the bus and I'll go ahead and walk on home. but I didn't. And, here we are. I do remember maybe the first or second time I went to New York, sitting in his studio surrounded by boxes full of letters that he had gotten because of Missing Time. And he was showing me certain letters that people had written because they were writing essentially the same thing that I was describing. And I looked up at him and I said, why did you answer my letter? I know I was in this box with all these other people, but why me? And he's like, well, kid, I don't know. That's the $64,000 question. And I said, destiny, maybe. And he said, maybe. So that's how I met Bud.
That and the 10th and Franklin church. I remember there being two churches on that corner, but I remember the big one, which if you're going west, it would be on the left-hand side. Is that the church you're talking about? The big one on the corner?
Actually, I think it's a little bit further down than Franklin. It's on, if you're going west, it's on the left side, but it's actually, I'm sure you probably have heard of it, Holy Spirit Church.
Oh, Holy Spirit. This was above Holy Spirit.
Yes, it was at Holy Spirit Church. So it's kind of like around 10th and
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, this is my hood. Everybody knows Holy Spirit Church in Cumberland. So there are people right now in Indianapolis. They just spun around. Everybody knows Holy Spirit. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Now.
And here's another epiphany for everybody, because I've heard for years people always have commented about they think they know where Kauble Woods is. Okay, and I've heard all kinds of people say all kinds of stuff, and I just kind of chuckle and close my eyes. Kauble Woods is a pseudonym. Kauble Woods doesn't. It's a pseudonym, just like Kathy Davis was and everything else. The actual place is called Kitley Woods, and it's very close to the Speedrome on South Kitley, south of the Speedrome. This whole neighborhood, that's where this happened.
Wow.
Kind of almost near Old Irvington.
Yeah.
It's not downtown Indianapolis. That's the thing.
See, I lived right there in Irvington, and right off of Shadeland and Washington, Audubon Circle. That whole area.
Yep.
That's where I lived. Yeah. And in June of 1983, that's where I was living. So, and the other part,
curious.
Very, very interesting to me. But there was a lot of high strangeness for me going through that period, and I've shared these stories many times. I'm not going to go into it now, But Indianapolis was a very interesting place back in that period. And there was a lot of other paranormal things that were going on that were rumors, around town. The house with blue lights and these haunted houses and UFO sightings throughout Indianapolis during this period. This is just so interesting to me. Now, let's go to, I know that you wrote about a 14-page letter. Let's start at the beginning there in June of 1983, which I would have been 20 years old. I wasn't even 21. I was living in Irvington. Just take us through that day. Was it just a normal day at first?
Yeah, and I wasn't much older than you. I probably was 22 or 23 at the time. Now maybe 23. But anyway, I was living with my parents. I had recently moved back home, not too recently. I had 2 little kids because I got divorced. So it was me and my 2 little kids, both toddlers practically. And I was cutting out patterns for a girl that lived one street behind us, and she would give me a little extra spending money to help her. She was a seamstress who made costumes, and so I couldn't sew worth a darn, but I could cut really good. So I was getting ready to go and cut out some patterns with her that evening after supper. So I was standing at the kitchen table. I was standing at the kitchen sink, looking out the window and washing my hands. And as I was just kind of looking out there, I noticed there was a light in the pump house of that was next to the swimming pool, because my parents had a big underground, swimming pool over there. And I thought, that's weird. I wonder why that light is on, because I remember I'd been out there earlier, so it didn't make sense to me. And I pointed it out to my mom, and she's like, "Don't worry about it. Your dad can turn it off when he gets home." My dad worked the second shift at Ford over there on English, the steering gear plant. He was an electrician. And so anyway, I thought to myself as I was leaving, I'm like, that just something about that don't rub me right. So I decided to go down the side drive. Since this was a tri-level house, and one driveway went up the front of the house to the garage that was attached, but the other part split, and it would go along the side of the house, out back into this turnaround that was in front of a workshop Daddy had back there. And so I thought, well, I'll just drive down that side drive and take a quick look before I head out. I wasn't thinking about aliens or UFOs or any other weird stuff. I was thinking about burglars and criminals and things like that. So as I turned around on the turnaround, I noticed the light was gone. It had gone out. I thought maybe Mom went out and shut it off or something. I didn't know. But I noted the pedestrian door to the garage that was attached to the house was open. And I thought, that's usually not open. And that probably means Penny's out. That was my dog. But I didn't stop because I didn't really see anything. I didn't see anybody. So I just went ahead to the street behind us. Took like 2 minutes. And I called Mom and I said, "Hey, look, I didn't see anything, but I wanted to let you know that the pedestrian doors opened the garage." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Don't worry about anything. I'll just lock the doors, and your dad will be home later." And I'm like, "Okay." So I hung the phone up, and then it rang again, like immediately, and I just snatched it up on reflex. And it was my mom, and she said, "I need you to come home right now." And she sounded weird and scared, and my mom never got scared. So I was a bit alarmed, and I'm like, "Why? What's going on? What's wrong?" And my friend and her husband are now listening to me, and he shouts over my shoulder into the phone, "Tell her to call the police. That's what we pay him for." And she heard him, and she said, I don't want anyone here but you." And I'm like, "Okay." So I said, "I'll be back." And I got my car, went back home.
And what were Deb, really quick, this is for me, not the audience. What streets are we on with your parents?
We're on Kitley.
Kitley
right
and
now,
what?
And I was on Hunter, was the street right behind us. And so I had been on Hunter Road, I just cut over from Iona and went right back down Kitley. It took like all of 2 minutes.
Right.
So anyways, that's, so Jimmy will be out there next time you go to
I know. I know exactly where this is. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're heading
anyways,
back.
I'm back to the house now. I pull up along the side and I get out of my car and I go into what we called the Florida room. It was something my dad added on. He built it, this little room. Mom was in there, and my dad had a shotgun next to the trash compactor, and it was not loaded. He didn't keep it loaded because I didn't, I had my kids there, and I didn't want a loaded gun anywhere where they could get. But my mom says to me, that's not loaded, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do, but whoever I'm about to hit upside the head with it don't know it till I get close enough, so... And I have to say, every time I tell the story, I have to tell you, I am not, at that point in my life, I was not a brave person. Today, I would not think twice about it. And it's really hard to scare me. But back then, no, I was not. That was way out of character for me to do something like that. So I went out there, looked around, didn't see anything, checked the pump house. I went back behind the swimming pool, and I did find my dog under Dad's ladder truck, but she would not come out. So I headed for the garage because the door was open, and I thought, well, if there's anybody around here, that's where they're going to be. So I got into the garage, and while I'm in there, all of a sudden I feel like my skin is on fire, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I got to get out of here right now. And as I turned and to run through the pedestrian door, bam, something hits me, like right in the solar plexus area, right between your
ribs,
chest,
yeah,
ribs, yeah. And it was like a ball of light. And it was so white and bright and intense that I know my eyes were closed. And I could still see it. I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't move. And it's hard to describe this sensation, but it felt like I could feel every individual molecule of my body that made up my body vibrate independently of each other and almost feel like they were blowing apart. And I felt like I was on fire, and I felt it was a weird sensation that was like time stopped. Like I was suddenly suspended in this nothingness with no time. And I remember thinking, oh, shit, I'm dead. I mean, oh my God, this is what it feels like to be dead. And I have no idea how long that lasted or how long I was like that. But then the light quickly faded to where it wasn't painful. And the vibration slowly stopped until I didn't feel it anymore. I felt like I was back together, but I couldn't move. I could move my eyeballs. And at that point, I was just a little bit outside the door on the patio, and I could see out in the yard in front of me what I thought were like 6 children in the yard. And I remember thinking, why are there children in our backyard? And they all seemed to be coming from different directions in the yard, and they lined up in front of me. And I couldn't see a lot of detail because my eyes were blown. It was as if a dozen people took my picture with flash cubes all at the same time, and I didn't blink fast enough. And I just had these horrible splotches of white in my vision, and my eyes hurt, and I could make out movement, and I could see a little bit, but it wasn't like it was kind of dark out, so I didn't really see a lot of detail. But as they moved in front of me, and they moved together, kind of lined up, then they started to like glide down in front of me off to my left a little bit. And that's when I saw that other thing that everyone and Bud and even me have called it a craft. But in retrospect, wasn't nobody flying anywhere in that little bitty thing. It wasn't much bigger than the pump house of the swimming pool. And I'm really crappy with trying to figure out, sizes and everything. But I think it was maybe about 10 feet tall. I'm 5 foot 5'3". I mean, but it wasn't much bigger than me. And I don't think that it was all the way on the ground, because it seemed as if it kind of had a very ever so faint, slight wobble to it. It was egg-shaped, and it had 4 appendages coming off of it, and I could see 2 of them. But they didn't look like they were sturdy enough to hold weight. I almost felt like it was more for like stabilizing, because it kind of came out the middle of this thing, not near the bottom. And they were real skinny. And there was a ball of light out in front of me, maybe 20 or 25 feet. And it was about the size of a basketball, and it was soft. I could actually look at it without pain. And it moved down really slow, and then it went back up, stopped where it started, and I felt like it was looking at me for some reason. I don't know. At some point during this, I feel someone tug down on my shoulder from behind me, and it feels like someone has jammed a hot knitting needle in my ear all the way into my brain, and I can't move, and I can't even scream, but I hear in my head someone say, "It's unfortunate that I felt this pain." And then at another point, I remember thinking, my kids, oh my God, my kids are in the house, and all this is in front of me. Because I didn't want to look at them or this craft thing or whatever this thing was, but I didn't not want to look at it, because I wanted to know where it was in relationship to me at all times. And if it moved close to me, I was about to freak, So, and then immediately then after I had that thought, the voice came back in my head and said, "Your children are safe. Your children are fine." And then the next thing I remember is my name. Somebody called my name. And when I heard my name, it was as if someone snapped their fingers. And everything that I just described to you was no longer in my brain. It was totally wiped from my memory, my conscious. And I remember slowly walking across the back lower patio, up the steps to the upper back porch where the kitchen was, and there was my mother. So she told me later that she's the one that called my name. And she said to me, are you okay? Is everything all right? And I said, "Everything's cool." Those are my exact words. "Everything's cool." But in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want to sew anymore. I feel weird and gross, and I just want to get wet. I don't know why. And I wasn't feeling real good at that point. So I went back to my friend's house, and mind you, this was like I was gone. We figured that I was gone probably an hour and 15 minutes or so, but they didn't even realize it. They didn't even realize I was gone so as long as I was. Even later when Bud interviewed him, they were shocked at the amount of time, because they didn't even realize it.
Let's take a break right there, Deb. That's a good place to stop. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Debbie Kauble. Wow. That's all I got for now. We're going to pick up right where we are leaving off. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to forbiddenknowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30 days free. That's coupon code 30 days free on forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRADB.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein the Ancient Crystal Skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Keble. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Debbie Kauble joins us for the first time. And then tomorrow night, Ross Coulthard, live from Australia. Debbie was the subject, one of the central figures in Bud Hopkins' best-selling book, Intruders. Kathy Davis in the book. Kathy Davis. And I can't believe, I know that you hear all the time Deb, about what that book has meant to so many people, and myself included. And it is just an honor to have you on the show tonight, and of course, hanging out with you last week. But before we get back, I want to tell you, I'm just going to make you laugh. My 2 favorite hangouts in Indianapolis: Steak and Shake on Washington and the 405, and Waffle House on Washington and Post.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's the 2 spots.
Totally.
That's the 2 spots
Totally.
right there. That's right there.
Yep.
Okay. And I want to ask you this. When I first met you, you have this aura of cool. You are cool. You are cool. And you've got that aura. But were you as cool back in 1983?
No. Totally no. I was a hot mess.
You were a hot mess.
For real. I was a hot mess. After 83, right after that whole thing happened, and then the mark in the yard appeared, and I started to remember that night, and, all that stuff started coming up. I really feel like I had a nervous breakdown at that point. I really did.
Right.
I mean, I would sit up all night long in between my 2 kids on their bed, watch them sleep, like I was waiting for something, but I didn't know what.
Right.
And then as soon as the sun would come up and Mom would wake up, I'd kind of sleep for a little while, and I was sick. Physically, I developed a lot of health issues. Immediately after that night, the next morning I woke up, my eyes were swollen completely shut. So my mom took me to the emergency room.
Methodist?
I ended up, no, community.
Community? Okay.
Community, where I was born and where my kids were born. But took me there, and they took me across the street to an ophthalmologist. I have a hard time saying that word. I don't know why. Eye doctor specialist there, who asked me upon examination, had I looked into the arc of a welder's torch, to which I said, no. And when I was there, I had not remembered being hit with the light yet, or anything like that. So I didn't tell him about the light, because I didn't remember it until several days later, when the mark appeared in the yard and I saw that for the first time. And as a side note, I must tell you, in my 30s, I was diagnosed with macular degeneration. It's dry and stable. And I was diagnosed with cataracts. And by the time I hit 50, I had brand new eyeball lenses, implants, because mine were shot. And I will always, to this day, blame that night for my eyes being so wrecked like that. But anyways,
we're going to get to, you and I did talk about some of your medical issues, which are absolutely incredible. And I think that to go through all of that, that's all part of life's journey, but it's made who you are today. You are the essence of cool. You're cool. You're cool. I could hang out with you. I could hang out with you anytime, and I did. Right? So, okay. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's back up. Speaking of cool, let's back up and to that moment when your mom calls you out of the yard and you responded back, "It's cool. Everything's fine. Everything's cool." Okay, so what happened next, this hour and 15 minutes?
Well, the hour and 15 minutes had already happened at that point.
Right.
We were tail end of it. And I went back to my friend's house, but I told her, I said, I'm not feeling this. I don't want to sew anymore tonight. How about, it's a nice warm night. How about let's go back to Mom's and go swimming? Because the pool had nice lights in it and lights around it and everything. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. So she gathered up her teenage daughter, and her and I and her daughter came back to my mom's. And as we're walking across the backyard towards the swimming pool, her daughter steps on something, which later on we realized it was actually the streak in the mark of the yard. We thought at the time that maybe she'd stepped on a bee or something, and we didn't see anything. So we all got in the pool, And suddenly, quite quickly, we all start feeling really nauseous. Me worse. And my eyes started feeling really weird and burned. And I started to notice halos around the lights outside, kind of like you see when you open your eyes in the chlorine too many times, except the problem with that was I hadn't opened my eyes in the chlorine. So my friend pops off with this, hey, well, let's go to White Castle. Maybe we get some White Castles, we'll feel better. Like anybody ever got to feel better from eating White Castles, unless you're drunk. But so I'm like, okay, let's try that. So we got out, we dried off. And then, we started heading towards the White Castle. But then that got aborted. We quickly realized that was just not going to work. So I went home. They took me back home and they went home. And then the next morning I woke up and the eyes were shot. And then fast forward to that following weekend, which was July 4th weekend, when the whole family always came to Mom's to swim. And we'd shoot off these obscene amount of fireworks and make all the neighbors hate us. And the kids all ran out the back door to head to the swimming pool. And they all ran back in real quick and said, Grandma, what's wrong with your yard? And so all the adults then trekked out to the back, and that's when we saw the mark that was in the yard. It was an 8-foot circle with a 49-foot streak slid off the side of it, and that ended in a perfect arc. And the grass in the circle was all laid down. It wasn't crushed. It was just kind of like it just laid down, and it was a weird grayish brown color. And my mother pops off with, oh, that's where our UFO landed. And I remember thinking, well, where did that come from? And I looked at her and I think I might have even said, what the hell? And then I turned right back and looked at that mark in the yard. And then it was like, bam. It was like somebody pulled the finger out of the dike and here it came. All the little memories started flowing out. First thing I saw when I looked at that mark in the yard was 2 big black eyes. And that was from that point on, I just kind of lost it. I started having flashbacks and memories and dreams, nightmares, and some I told my mom about, but most of it I didn't tell anybody because I thought, oh my God, I'm losing my mind, and that was when I started to think about missing time in that book. And the more I, as the days passed, the more I remembered, and I also started to remember things that had happened prior to the June 30, 83 incident, like the 78 incident when I was young married. And I had what my husband called a dream. I said it wasn't a dream. When these 2 big-eyed gray alien people, I call them the gray guys, came in my bedroom with this black box that, when I first saw them in my bedroom that night, I thought, don't touch me, please, just don't touch me and I'll be all right, And my husband was laying next to me, but he never woke up. And suddenly I'm feeling calm. I don't know how I went from, oh my God, don't touch me, please don't kill me, don't get anywhere near me, and maybe I'll be all right, to, okay, I'm calm. And what is this thing? And can I have it? Because no one's going to believe this. And they said, no, you can't have it. But when you see it again, you'll know what it's for. You'll know what to do.
No, you're talking about the black box. And this caught my attention last week over dinner. Everybody at the table wanted to talk about the black box, and you told us about it. Can we discuss that right now in detail?
Sure, if you want to.
I do.
So that was in 78, and I was just married, and they were in my room. They kind of handed me this black. At this point, I'm sitting up in my bed. Husband's still laying next to me, dead to the world, oblivious to what's going on. And I say, can I have this? Can I keep it? And they said, no, but you'll see it again. You'll know what to do with it. You'll know what it's for. You know what to do with it or how to use it. And then they took it back and they left. And the next morning I told him, I'm like, you're not going to believe what happened last night. And all he could say was, oh, what did you eat for dinner? Don't eat that again. And I was so hyped over it. I called my mother and I told her, and she remembered when I called her and told her about it, even years and years later when Bud came for his first round of investigative, stuff. But so that was in 78. And then shortly after that, not even a year, I think, maybe in 79, I had gotten pregnant with my son. And it went really wrong. And by the time I was about 6 or 7 weeks out from him being born, I went into eclampsia. And I started having organ failure, and I was kind of semi-comatose. And then I remember the doctor was a devout Catholic and was getting ready to take me into the operating room to do an emergency C-section, because if he didn't, I was going to die. Mm-hmm. And he said, let's pray. And I'm like, okay. And so then they go give me the stuff that I guess to knock me out, but they didn't give me enough because I woke up right away. But I couldn't move. Whatever they gave me to paralyze me worked, and I could feel them cut me open. I could feel them pinch and pull and burn like fire, and I wanted to let somebody know I could feel this, but I couldn't move or scream or anything. And I heard them talking about Geist Reservoir and sailboats.
Really?
I heard them some kind of talk about that going on in here. And then the voices started going really far and farther and farther away. It sounded like they were in another room, and then farther. And then I felt this kind of whomp feeling, and I literally unplugged from my body. And I was in a black box. And I was pounding with my fists on this black box, and I was trying to scream, I'm not dead. Let me out. And the weird part is, my whole life that I just unlocked from, I didn't remember any of it. I mean, I didn't remember I was having a baby. I had a baby or anything like that. But what happened was then next, I couldn't get out of this black box. But what happened next was I heard a voice in my ear, and I think it was a nurse. And she said to me, you can't leave yet. Your baby's just been born and he needs his mother. And as soon as I heard baby, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Boom. I ain't going anywhere, And I locked right back in. And when I did, the voices started to come back, and they got louder and louder and louder. And there was a screaming and carrying on. At one point, I felt like I'd been taken off the table, thrown back on the table. I felt straps around my legs. And then I felt oxygen coming in my throat. And it felt so good to feel this air in me that I was literally gulping this air back into my body, like drinking water. And I felt, finally. And it was just the weirdest thing. But see, I don't know why I connect the black box they showed me months before, and then me actually in a black box trying to get out. So, I mean, it wasn't your typical near-death experience, but it was definitely changed something in me. And even Whitley even made the comment, which I thought was interesting. He said, maybe you were going to leave and somebody captured you in a black box and didn't let you leave because you still had stuff to do here.
Yeah. That's exactly what it sounds like. And just listening to this, it is so intense. Right. And the description of, the oxygen coming into you and the sensations that you were feeling with that, the relief. It's just, it's very intense to listen to all of this. What happens next?
You mean?
With your son? That? Yes.
Well, remember, this was 42 years ago.
Right.
Think about capabilities of medicine then as opposed to now. But 42 years ago, after going through all that, my son and I went home together 7 days later.
Right on.
He was definitely early because he didn't have any fingernails or toenails yet. He just had little dents where they would eventually come in.
Right.
He had long white hair all over him. His eyes were still kind of sealed shut like a puppy dog, and his ears were curled. They were still rolled up and hadn't opened yet. He didn't even know how to suck when he was born. They had to feed him. He had, and this is the crazy part, his lungs were fully developed. He was 5 pounds and 20.5 inches long. And he was almost 7 weeks premature.
Early.
He would have been a monster baby. And I was not, my insides are not that big. He would have been a C-section whether I was sick or not. But he was huge. And now this kid now is my 42-year-old son, whom I'm so proud of. He's brilliant. He is, he didn't have any of the things that they said that might happen to him because he was born so early. Nothing. He excelled. The high school that he went to here actually put him in college computer classes when he was in like the 7th grade because he developed the database for their sports program in the 7th grade on computers. He's smart. And I'm so proud of him and all the stuff he does. Now he's a Microsoft engineer. He installs phone systems. He lived in California and Oakland and Pleasanton and Glendale for 7 or 8 years working out there. But he's my little genius. He's my genius. I embarrass him all the time.
Now, the flooding back, I'm looking at the clock here before we get to the break. The flooding back of the memories is one thing, but your mom said that's where the UFO was. Did what was it that your mom witnessed before we get back to the memories and continue? What was it that your mom saw?
You know, and she didn't tell me this until like a week later. One day we were in the kitchen and she's like, oh, you know, I just remembered why I called you back home that day. And I'm like, really? Why? And she's like, well, I was standing at the kitchen window and I saw this ball of light around the bird feeder that was right out in front of the window. And she goes, I thought, is somebody out there with a flashlight, you know, beam shown on this bird feeder? And she goes, I didn't see anything. And then I thought maybe your dad came home early and it was headlights. She goes, but again, I didn't see anything. And she goes, I'm just standing there staring at this white light. It was about the size of a basketball. And she said, it got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then poof, it disappeared. And she said, the second it disappeared, it's when it come into my head that I needed to call you and tell you to come home right now. I'm like, well, damn, I might have known that. Well, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, she didn't even remember that herself for like a week.
And did she see the craft with the appendages?
I don't think so. I don't ever recall hearing her say that. That was further down. She would not have been able to see it from where she was in the kitchen. And I don't ever remember her being out. I remember her calling my name out the door, but she was actually still in the kitchen when the door was open. She was calling my name. And from her point of view there, she would not have been able to see it from where it was, or maybe barely, but, you know, not enough to realize there was something really major there.
Now, before we get to the break, back to the part of this experience, the mention from your mom, right? The mark in the yard, everybody's there, boom, everything comes flooding back. Take us through that moment, and was it a complete memory?
No, it was chunks, bits and pieces came back over a period of time. The most complete part of the memory came back to me later on in the evening, I think, or maybe in the next day or two, when I actually remembered being hit in the chest. And there was one point for a couple of weeks that I went to the emergency room probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in a week. My mom finally is, you know, she's like, she wasn't sure what to do with me, because when you go to the emergency room and you walk in there and they call you by your first name, they know you know, you got a problem. But I was struggling to try and explain everything. So at this, later on in this point here, I started, I called the agricultural agent for Indiana at Purdue, and I called the gas company, and trying to figure out what could cause this mark in the yard. I mean, I was really looking for whatever reasonable explanation I could find. In the meantime, I also went out and I tried to dig some of it up. And, I was about 100 pounds heavier than I am now. And I was out there with a spade, jumping up and down on this sucker, trying to chunk off little pieces of it. And I was barely dusting it up. And there was a big crack on one side of it. And I thought, I wonder how deep that goes. And so I got one of those measuring sticks, a 12-inch, ruler from school. And I stuck it down in that crack. I was going to see if I could figure out how deep the crack was. And I dropped the ruler and it disappeared. So I never found it. It was big. Also, the soil smelled kind of weird. So, I was, at this point, I'm trying to rationalize everything away. And I'm also telling myself, calm down, you're out of control. It was so bad that at one point I couldn't go to the bathroom in that upstairs bathroom because the little window overlooked the mark in the yard. And I don't know why, but I felt like if I went in there at night, something was going to pull me out the window. And so I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I could go during the day, but just not at night. I mean, it was ridiculous. And that's why I reached out to Bud. That's how desperate I was. I was desperate. I mean, I knew if I told a doctor or something that I was going to the roundhouse, I was going to be heavily medicated. Right. And I didn't really want that. I was just trying to make sense of it all. And
Deb, Deb, before we head to the break, okay. I just want to ask you this: the 6, I'm using air quotes here, the 6 children in the yard, was that part of the memory?
Oh, all of that. Yeah, that was part of what came back. And I don't know what they were doing out there. And I called them bullets when I first saw them because, like I told Bud, I basically could only see the shape of them, and they just looked like they had bigger heads and were narrow, but they were the size of kids, so I thought they were children.
Absolutely
I don't
incredible.
think they were children.
Absolutely incredible. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Debbie Kauble. It's an incredible story, an incredible life of contact, and we're going to do it all tonight with Deb and more when we come back after this short break. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
And where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Debbie Kauble. More with Debbie in just a second. But now I need to talk to you about Virtual Shield. Virtual Shield VPN. Everybody needs their own VPN today. You saw what I just went through, right? Tonight, right here, panic attack. I run too many computers to make this show happen every single night. Every one of them runs Virtual Shield VPN. They are all running on the internet. They all have Ethernet connections, but nobody knows how to find me. That's what I do. I run in secret. I'm in a secret location. My location is confidential. I can pick any city, right? I can reside there. All of my search traffic, everything that I do in my research for this show every single night, nobody knows but me. You need Virtual Shield VPN. You've got encrypted servers all around the world. You've got a strict no logs policy. Nobody knows, not even Virtual Shield, what you are doing. And it's all simple to do. Click on the link in the video description box below. If you're over there on YouTube, click on that, 50% off today. You can also type into your browser, virtualshield.com/fade to black. Head straight there. You get it for 50% off today. There are links over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on those. It'll take you straight there. Virtual Shield for 50% off today. Everybody needs their own VPN. Our guest tonight is Debbie Kauble. Now, Debbie, the question that I think is on everybody's mind, because you had something that happened in 1978 with the black box, and now we're in 1983. Did you ever ask yourself why you?
Well, all the time. I did all the time, especially back then. My mother had something weird happen to her when she was little, a little girl, and I didn't even know it. I heard her telling Bud about it one time. She had memories of being chased through the woods by a little boy. And then there's me and my sister. So, and Mom was adopted, so we're not sure about, any of her blood family beyond her, but it seems like it, Mama just was born to the right person at the right time, or the wrong right person at the wrong time, depending on your perspective, So, but yeah, it is what it is. So I finally learned to embrace it after all these years and all this weird stuff. And I finally figured out early enough, thank God, to write things down, however little they were, because there is so much in my, it's been my whole life, and I'm 62 years old. So it's like, that's a lot of stuff. So I wrote it all down, and that's what ended up coming out in the books that I've written now, which I mainly did for people like me who've had these experiences, so they know they're not alone, and maybe they'll be a little less afraid to speak out.
Right.
And for my granddaughter and any future grandchildren or great-grandchildren, down the line, so they know me and who they come from, and what may be for them too someday. Who knows?
Now, all of this, leads you to Bud, and Bud is somebody that has escaped me. I never got a chance to interview him. But he is such a central figure in ufology and experiencers and contactees and abductions. What was he like when you first met him? I just want. I hope he's as cool as you.
When I first got off that bus in New York for the first time, I was terrified, and I didn't know who I was going to meet. And there stood this man with this funny lopsided smile, kind of, baggy shirt and pants, carrying a bag full of muffins and a cup of coffee, and had a smile on his face. And he was just for me, my experience with him was that he was one of the kindest, most compassionate and caring people I'd ever met. He genuinely cared about not just me, but my whole family, and genuinely wanted to do what he could do to help us. Keeping in mind that he was not a psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, scientist. He was an artist. But he felt driven and compelled to go into this field. He says it's because he had a sighting back in the 60s on the Cape with friends while driving on the Cape. And I always said, did you get snatched? And he's like, no, I didn't have that happen. I'm like, are you sure? I said, you're pretty driven, and he's like, no. But so he denied all that. But, he was thorough. He was very careful because I was already fragile, and he obviously didn't want to do any more damage. The minute I got off the bus, the first thing we did when I got off the subway was he took me to a psychiatrist's office, Dr. Aphrodite Clamar in New York, and introduced me to her and had a little interview with her. And she regressed me with some hypnosis, but it wasn't to investigate anything. It was to relax, to calm me down, because I was so full of anxiety, and just to let me see how hypnosis felt. Because I had these preconceived notions about him, like everyone else does. You see people on TV, and the hypnotherapist tells everybody to, dance like a chicken and bark like a dog.
Bark like a dog, yes.
Yeah, that's not how it works. So, but he reached out to professionals. He created a network, like a buddy system. Even before I made my first trip to New York, he had hooked me up with a buddy. That's what he called him. It was a woman about my age, a little older, who'd been already been aware of her experience longer than I had, and so I could call her. And she always said, anytime, day or night, I don't care if something weird's happening, call me. And I did. So he hooked us up with buddies, so we weren't alone and didn't feel alone. And then he also had group meetings where everybody would just get together at his apartment and share, And he, like the one time I went to New York, he took me to the hospital there. I think it might have been Columbia University Hospital but I'm not exactly, I can't remember. I had an EEG of my brain with the wires stuck to your head, and I had a CAT scan of my brain, and I remember I had to sign a release for them to put the dye or whatever in me when they x-rayed my head. All this was either donated, or the service was donated, or the money was donated to pay for it, because I had no money. And also I had 6 hours of verbal and written psychological testing done, because he was, being a good investigator, trying to eliminate obvious causes like epilepsy, brain tumors, seizures, mental illness, profound mental illness. I remember telling one of the doctors during the psychological testing, I said, it's okay if you tell me I'm crazy. I'm good with that, because they make pills that I can take and this will go away and I'm okay.
Right.
And yeah, the only thing they could come up with that was I was above average intelligence, and I exhibited symptoms of something called post-traumatic stress disorder. And that was 35 years ago, when people didn't talk about PTSD like they do now.
Right.
So, but Bud tried to be as professional as he could. He reached out to the professionals, and I felt blessed to have been early on in his journey with this whole thing, because as the book, after he wrote Intruders, and then he wrote Witnessed, and then he wrote Sight Unseen, and got more popular, and more people were reaching out to him. He was literally swamped with people from around the world that were desperate for his help. So I didn't, I was up and I was functioning. I was doing much better, and I was on my way. He was in New York, I was in Indiana, so I didn't get to see him or talk to him as much as I would have liked as the years passed. And then when he found out he had cancer, he called me, and he said, "I want you to hear it from me before you hear it somewhere else." He was like a father to me. When I got the phone call that he died, I cried as hard as I did when I got the call that my father died. Literally. He was like a father. I was young, and his whole family, even his wife, who used to bitch all the time and say, "Hopkins, I didn't marry a UFO investigator. I married an artist," But we got along, and she welcomed me into that family fold, and they treated me like another one of their kids, and my whole family loved his whole family, and I feel very blessed that I got that opportunity that a lot of people didn't get.
Now, there is okay, I'm just going to get straight at this on a couple of points. You go through a lot of therapy. But there is another step that all of this takes. You're on a craft, right? And these experiences, and I asked you this in person, so I'm going to ask you again now. How much of this was real, real, physical, and how much of it wasn't? And I believe your answer to me was, Jimmy, it was all physical in the beginning. And then it transitioned to something else. Can we jump into that a little bit deeper? We didn't have a chance to talk about it. So how much of it early on was physical, and over time, when did it start to make this transition?
Well, a lot of it was physical contact. Obviously in the mark in the yard, there were, later Bud found witnesses to that night. So there were other people involved, other witnesses. And there were all kinds of other weird little things that also involved other people and other people witnessing strange things. So, in the beginning, it was definitely more of a 3D in this reality, physical kind of contact. Mm-hmm. But I'd say when it changed was probably in around 1992. And that was like right after, that was right before a very traumatic part of my life. And it was right after I had a total hysterectomy. And then there was something that happened at the farmhouse with my husband at the time, who passed away, and our house guests. And then my husband passed away. And, I had this love-hate relationship with this. I realized that my life and myself wouldn't be who I am and how I was growing and everything without it. But yet there were times in my life when I was like, I just wished it would leave me alone. I try to be invisible. I just wanted to be normal. I just want to have a normal life, and this was preventing me. Every time I try to have a normal life, something would happen and I'd just get dropped right back in. Well, the physical stuff finally stopped about 92, but I started having it started to shift to more of a, out of body experiences, or like I'd go to sleep at night and literally go somewhere else, and have these lucid dreams, or I'd have these lucid dreams, or where I would visit, these other people would visit me and tell me things, and I would draw pictures and write things down. That started back in the late 80s. And so it was just a gradual transition between, first of all, it started in a physical sense with the, even the injury that I feel like I sustained from that, I don't think it was intentional. I think it was an inadvertent effect of whatever was going on. I don't think it was done on purpose. But and then, I don't know, I started changing. Like I said, I started having these vivid dreams. I started having these memories of going somewhere else when I'd sleep. I started to encounter strange people, during the day, waking time. Paranormal activity started to ramp up around me. And my whole family, actually, what people would call paranormal activity, like the ashtray that split in half when I flipped my cigarette over it. Big, heavy glass amber one. You know how heavy them suckers are.
Mm-hmm.
And TVs turning on and off, balls of light fly through the house and whiz around everyone's head and then take off. Blue balls of light, white balls of light, and a green ball of light that flashed so brightly in the house that it blew the light bulb, turned the TV off, and made the phone ring all at the same time. Just that kind of stuff started happening. And I started thinking to myself, what is this, a test to see how I'm going to react to this? I recall having gotten off work at a village pantry, working the late shift, jacked up on coffee and cigarettes, trying to lay down in bed and close my eyes. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm looking at snow on a television screen in my head, and I can hear it. Then I start hearing a voice, and they're talking, but they're not talking to me. It's like I'm overhearing a conversation in some language that I don't even understand. And then I see these crazy looking eyes for a minute in this snow, and they look like cat eyes, like amber colored cat eyes, So stuff like that started happening. Now, kind of sometimes I thought maybe I'm losing my mind, but I just write it down and try to continue on with my life. And, at first that scared me, but now it didn't scare, I got over it. Didn't scare me. I started trying to figure out what that was, always trying to figure out something and reporting it to Bud and whoever else would listen.
Now, how much regression, I think you told me you didn't do a whole lot, but how much regression therapy did you do?
Like I didn't do a whole lot because I lived in Indiana and Bud lived in New York City, and I couldn't afford to go there a lot. And he might have come to our house maybe 2 or 3 times, and I might have gone to New York 2 or 3 times over a period of lots of years. And I think maybe at the most I had with him maybe 6 regression sessions. Maybe, and I didn't have any I don't recall having anybody with anybody else except Dr. Clamar, and that was the one time with her. And it's funny because now there were a couple sessions when I did remember a lot of stuff during the session, but some of the sessions I didn't remember anything, and it wasn't until like a couple weeks later during conversation with my mother, sitting around the kitchen table having a coffee and a cigarette, and she'd say something and I'm like, oh. And then I would remember some little thing and I tell her about it. She's like, oh, I remember that. And I'm like, I can't believe I forgot that. So it was like these sessions I would, stuff would drizzle out afterwards. But it was always stuff that was confirmed by somebody else. Like my mom would say, oh yeah, I remember that. So it wasn't anything that I was getting from Bud or somewhere else. It was just stuff that I was eventually, raking through these onion layers of memories and things, and eventually the stuff would come out.
In Intruders, there is your experiences on board a craft. Now, again, was this a physical thing or was this brought out in therapy?
Like, I remember, like in November, right before I found out I was pregnant the first time, I had been out literally driving around with my friends, two of my friends, and we were way out on the Far East Side, which back then was nothing but farmhouse and farmland. And we were spying on her boyfriend because we were driving by their house to see if he was there. And his car was there, like he said he was. You know how I was 17, I think, at the time, and I saw a light in the sky, and I told my friend, I said, hey, look, there's a light in the sky. And I made some smart ass remark like, oh, look, there's a UFO. And I kind of laughed. The girl in the back seat flipped out and got really bizarrely scared. But the girl driving was like me. And she's like, oh, that's weird. And it started zigzagging and acting weird in the sky. And then the next memory I have is of the whole car being like covered in this black smoke and feeling like I was being ripped out of the car by my legs. And then I remember later on, I think in regression, I remembered being on a table somewhere. I don't remember going into a craft, but I was definitely not out in the field. And I remember a very unpleasant physical exam and a lot of pain in my abdominal area. And then the next thing I remember, I am back in the car, and my friend is actually standing outside the car, the driver, and I think I went back outside with her for a minute. We were looking at something, but I don't recall what we were looking at. And then we got back in the car, and I remember her saying to me, oh, time sure flies when you're having fun, like sarcastically. Then we realized, holy crap, we got to hurry up and get home because we had to climb in the window before her parents' alarm went off so we couldn't get caught. But then years later, not that the first part of that actually, we were in a car, we were driving. It was three of us girls. We saw the light. But the other part of it, I didn't remember till later under hypnosis. And then when Bud came back, he actually went and interviewed the girl that was the driver. And the oddest thing of all was when he said, I wanted to talk to you about the light that you and Debbie and Rhonda saw that night when you were out spying on Kenny. And she goes, oh, you mean the one in the sky or the one on the ground? And I was like, what one on the ground? Boom, and then eventually Bud, after talking to her, he's like, if you want to do some regression to see, if you remember anything else, I can do that. And she's like, nope, I'm good with it. I've gone this long and not remembered. I don't want to know. And he's like, okay, it's cool. So that was a time where, I remembered something under hypnosis, but then there were other people and an actual physical thing that happened attached to it. So.
Now, how far east were you guys like, and especially back then, I know exactly the lay of the land. It was just cornfields and soybeans. Was it like German Church Road east, or were you?
Yes, it was maybe even a little bit farther out than that. I know there's Post, Midhofer,
German Church. Right.
And then what's the next one out? I think it might have been like the next one out. We were almost like to
Greenfield.
No, we weren't quite to Greenfield. What's
County Line Road.
Okay, like Sunnyside Road.
Yeah,
out in that area in there.
Yeah, Southeast Way Park.
Yeah, it was. Except this was north. This was more north.
Right.
So,
right.
But that's where we were out driving around because we used to go roller skating out on Pendleton Pike.
Right. Oh, yes. Okay, but anyway, so but that part of Indianapolis, which now is houses, it's all suburbs, but back then, pretty remote, and anything could go on out there. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And you mentioned the other girls in the car. Bud is very thorough. Right.
Yeah, he was.
And he's trying to eliminate everything. And he was able to go and interview them.
Well, one of them. We couldn't find the third one. The one that freaked out, that was literally laying on the floorboard in the back seat. We never did get a hold of her, I don't believe. But we did the girl that was the driver. And I hadn't talked to her in years. I don't even know. My sister actually helped me find her.
And this is when you were 17.
Yeah, this is right before I got pregnant the first time.
Exactly. So this is even before the black box with your husband.
Yeah.
So this is truly a life of contact. Now,
a lifetime of weirdness and contact with God knows what from who knows where.
After we're going to head towards a break. After 1983, June of 1983, the event in the yard, was there more direct contact after June of 1983?
Yes.
Before you reached out to Bud?
It was after we had reached out to Bud. It was in April of 1984. And again, and it was myself and my mother. Again, we saw this massive triangular shaped craft fly low and slow over the house. And when it got right above us, as we stood out on the porch and watched it, it lit up like a Christmas tree underneath. It was all white except for the little tiny red light at the front of it. But big bars of light that looked like fluorescent lights and little dots of light everywhere. And you could almost feel it when it lit up like almost like a sensation. It barely made any noise at all. It was like practically silent, but there was a low, very low frequency hum that was something that you could almost feel in your chest more than hear. But it, to be so huge and so close, it was pretty silent, and it glided. And I couldn't believe, how many people live in Indianapolis and how close we were to downtown. I couldn't believe it when nobody else. I thought I would see it all over the news and hear it on the radio and the newspaper and the whole bit. Nothing.
Fascinating. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Debbie Kauble. Debbie, I told you about our little thing at the electric company at German Church Road, out where you had your little thing. And the crazy thing, that was 1983. That was 1983. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs. including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Debbie Kauble. Debbie, what a great conversation tonight. And do you feel, because I'm watching you, the audience can't see you, is this emotional to go back and relive these experiences?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my face, I was sitting here feeling my face felt hot.
You know, I'm watching. I'm thinking, Jimmy, man, you need to back off a little bit. But it is just it's so extraordinary. You know, it's way beyond ordinary, right? This is
yeah, I know.
Yeah, this is extraordinary. And the triangle craft. I want everybody to kind of visualize this. Indianapolis is surrounded by the 465 freeway. Indianapolis sits in the middle of it. And then, they kind of call it, like outside the ring, outside the 465. But back in the day, most of Indianapolis was inside of this ring of the 465 freeway that goes all the way around the city. But when you are inside of the 465, the population, it gets denser and denser and denser. This area that she's talking about is not quite in downtown, but it's about halfway. But it is completely populated, and I lived right there. You are in the city of Indianapolis. So when Deb says this black triangle came over the house, and my mom and I saw it, why wasn't this all over the news? That's because this part of Indianapolis is the city. This is a populated part, and I'm totally with you on that. I can't believe it wasn't on not only the news, but WIBC, right? And,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, but Bud had already given us some information about CUFOS, the Center for UFO Studies up in Chicago,
right?
And MUFON, which MUFON didn't want to have anything to do with us really because they weren't touching abduction or contact at all at that point in their whatever they were. They were all only nuts and bolts. I just saw light, So anyway, I had this phone number for the Center for UFO Studies. So I called their UFO reporting hotline that night, and it was late, and Dr. J. Allen Hynek answered the phone.
Yeah.
Yes, the Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And I told him who I was. I told him how I got I got the number, and I told him what had just happened. And we were, of course, jacked up over it, Mom and I, and because, see, at one point, my mom, she's standing on the porch and she's like mesmerized and she's going, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I'm looking at her like, really, lady? Are you kidding me? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, hell no, not again. And I run through the house as this thing passes over it and out the back door to see it pass over the house. And I'm thinking, holy shit, where's this thing going? I see it go out back near right over 465 because we were very close to it at 465 Shadeland Avenue interchange area. And then when you would think it was so huge, okay, it was 4 times the size of a big jet, and you would expect it to do a bank if it's going to turn, but no, this dude just goes whoop and twists on its axis and just starts coming back in the same direction, only a little bit farther north of the house. And I'm watching this thing thinking, holy crap. But when it finished passing over Mom and me and the clearing above the house, the lights went back off. I had first spotted it coming home. I don't know, I do weird things on weird time. And I had been giving myself a manicure and I needed fingernail polish remover. So I was going to run down to the village pantry at this weird hour of night and get some. And on the way home is when I spotted this light, and I first thought it was a jet really low with the landing lights on, but then the lights turned into one, and I'm like, I don't think jets do that. And it was headed right for the house. So I put the metal to the pedal and I hauled it to the front door and went tearing in, yelling, Mom, get out here, you got to see this. So anyways, I called and Dr. Hynek answered, and we both told him what we saw, and he asked us to draw pictures of what we'd seen individually, which we sent to him. And then my mother spoke to him on the phone one more time, and he told my mom, because both of us were just flabbergasted that this thing was huge, and it was very low. It was just above the treetop levels.
And 465 in Shadeland, everybody. This is one of the busiest parts of the east side. I mean, there's people out there 24 hours a day, the roads, the freeway. I'm so surprised. What did your mom spoke to J. Allen Hynek?
And he told her that and all the years and he's been doing his research and people he's talked to, was beginning to think that not everyone was able to see these things. Because stuff like this made absolutely no sense.
Right.
The only thing that did make sense was if, for some reason or another, my mother and I were wired a little differently and we could see something that other people couldn't see. Because this thing was absolutely huge, and there is absolutely no rational, reasonable explanation for why no one else reported this thing.
Now, you went through, I'm looking at the clock. Can I keep you for overtime? Can we keep this thing going?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking kind of rough, but yeah, if you don't mind me sucking on Coke Zero Cherry and looking crazy, that's fine.
So your mom is like the UFO mom now. Was she okay with what was going on?
Yeah, my whole family was. I mean, my mom and dad have passed away now, but they've always been supportive. And anytime us kids reported weird stuff, they were like, "Yeah, we know." They had their share of paranormal experiences in the house. It's funny too, because when mom passed away first, and then dad passed away like 7 years later. But before he passed away, he had to go somewhere else and live. And so we had to sell the house. And the person that bought the house actually turns out was friends with someone I went to high school with. And I got this message one day, hey, my friend bought your mom and dad's house. You know, that one where all that weird stuff happened? I'm like, yeah. And I asked her, has anything strange happened? Have you seen anything weird since you moved in? And at that time, it's been several years, but she said, nothing strange has ever happened. They don't see anything. We had that first year after June 30, 83, the paranormal activity we had there before was nothing. It blew up after June 30, 83, and it followed us kids. When I moved out, when I finally moved back out and got my own place with my kids, it started in my apartment. And it was happening in my sister's house, my older sister, when she at her home. So I don't think it was the house. I think it was us.
Now, you went through and continue a series of medical issues. Unbelievably crazy, the medical stuff that you went through. The direct question, I want to talk about this, but do you connect this to the ET contact?
Well, it's tempting. And I'll tell you, in someone in my position, it's very easy to just blame everything weird in my life and with me on it. And that's something I've really struggled with my whole life, to resist, because I don't want to fall into something where I blame everything. I want to be able to remain skeptical to a point where I at least will try to see if I can, figure it out. As far as my eyes go, I really feel strongly that my eyes were the result of what happened on June 30, 83. As far as some of the other stuff that's happened to me, I don't know. Now, the dog that was out there with me that night, who got out of the garage and was apparently out there when all this was going on somewhere, at first we thought she had the mange because the hair started falling off the back of her. But then it started falling off places where she couldn't rub. And then she started getting big black sores on her back that oozed and were gross. And her teeth started falling out in her food bowl. Her eyes looked all whited over like cataracts. I mean, you could see she was blind or not. Well, couldn't see very well. And eventually,
radiation?
I don't know. We took her to the vet, and actually we ended up putting her to sleep because the vet said she was suffering. And I mean, they didn't do tests or autopsies or anything like that on the dog. You know what I mean? I mean, we loved her to death, but she was suffering and she wasn't going to get any better. So, but in the back of my mind, I always thought, oh my God, she was out there that night. And I don't know if whatever hit me hit her. And I'm like, what? Is that going to be my fate someday? You know what I mean? Is something going to happen like that? So far, my eyes, were jacked up, and they're still weird. They water a lot. If you see me doing this, I'm not crying. I'm just, but and then I've had the emergency C-sections, and then I had to have a hysterectomy. During the hysterectomy. After the hysterectomy, I should say, the surgeon came out and his exact words were, "Oh my God, you were trashed inside." I mean, when a surgeon tells you you're trashed, you are trashed. That my ovaries were the size of green olives and were wrapped in scar tissue and had grown to various other organs in my body. And there was bowel and bladder involvement in all this scar tissue and everything. And this was in 92. So then fast forward now, I've got a neck full of titanium screws and plates, and my joints and my lower back, I've had like 5 surgeries on my hands and my feet for degenerative arthritis. And of course, working in a factory for 15 years probably didn't help that. But then I started having all these abdominal issues. And as it turned out, in January, I had the first of 2 surgeries. The first one, it was an emergency. And I had the doctor, when your surgeon comes out and looks at you with saucer-shaped eyes, like they can't believe that they're looking at you like you're an alien or something. It's kind of weird. And he said, I knew when you came in and told me that there was something wrong with you, and if I didn't find it, you were going to die. You knew you were serious. But he said, I couldn't believe what I saw. From my navel down was one solid mass, just like it was one massive organ of the scar tissue bands and adhesions. Ended up having to go in twice and remove like 40 partial bowel blockages from all these adhesions, and everything had grown to itself. And then keeping in mind, about 6 years or so ago, I was diagnosed with something called fibromuscular dysplasia in my renal arteries.
And what is that exactly?
Fibromuscular dysplasia, or FMD as it's commonly referred to, is kind of a rare, they think maybe genetic disorder where nerve cells grow inside the vascular system, and they create like spider webs inside the vascular system, and they attach to the walls, and then they pull closed, and they create something they call a string of beads or pearls. Basically, they're aneurysms. When mine was found, I had 7 aneurysms on my renal artery, and they opened them up with balloons. All they did was do the angioplasty into the renal artery, inflate the balloons, pop the strings, and the arteries pop right back open. But the bad part about it is it can come back, and it can come back in your brain, in the chambers of your heart, anything connected to your vascular system.
Right.
Yeah. And it's something that I was apparently born with. And they study it at the Cleveland Clinic. And when the doctor talked to me about the massive strings of scar tissue adhesion had overgrown and gone berserk inside of my abdominal area, my mind went to 2 places. My mind went to the FMD because it sounded like the giant-sized version of the FMD inside the arteries, and it also made me think of that night on June 30th when I got hit in the abdomen, in the I call it the solar plexus there, with that massive light. So I don't know. I can't prove anything. It's all my opinion or gut feeling. I have absolutely zero proof. Probably never will. But for me, it's food for thought. It's something that will always be in the back of my mind.
You look amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, considering, so we're sitting at dinner and we're going down the list, right? And we're sitting next to each other, and I'm like, you're just amazing. You look great and you look happy.
I feel better now than I have felt. I'm 62, and I feel younger and healthier right now than I did at 25. I feel in some ways like I'm the Benjamin Button I feel like I'm getting younger. I know I have a lot of junk wrong with me, but I don't feel any of it. I feel energized and alive, and I feel good. So thanks for noticing.
Well, and you've got a great smile too, as well. An amazing smile. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. I'm looking at the clock. I know we're gonna hit a break, and we're gonna go into overtime. I want to go back. Okay, so the Black Triangle, that's 1984. You reach out to J. Allen Hynek. You drew pictures. You sent those to him. That was another physical contact experience. Was there anything after that, Deb?
Well, remember I told you in 1992 I had the hysterectomy. Well, it was either right before or right after the hysterectomy. We were in the farmhouse. I was married to my late husband, and I had my house guest Jean and her daughter were there. And I remember sitting on the couch, and I was looking out the open front door. It was night, and I saw this weird light out in the sky, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, hey, you guys, look at that. So everybody gets up and look, and we go outside. And it may have been right after I had my hysterectomy, because I think I had on a house coat or something. But so we went outside, and we're watching this weird light. My late husband goes in and he gets his camcorder. And when he comes back outside, because we noticed that we hear a beeping sound coming from the barn, and our cows are over there, and we can hear them mooing. And
what part of town is this?
Now, this was actually up here where I live now. It was not in Indy. It was up north near Kokomo.
Near Kokomo.
So we were. So anyway, we were hearing the this beeping sound, and he's recording, and I'm standing out the end of the driveway with Jean and her daughter, and I see something walk towards us, and I thought it was a deer at first. It looked like I was looking at it from straight ahead. And, I could see like the head and then the skinny legs and skinny body. But I thought, it's moving kind of weird for a deer. And it's coming right at us. And in the recording, you can hear Jean's daughter going, Mama. She says something like, Mama, what's that coming towards us in the street? And Jean's like, oh, no. And then one of us screams. And then the recording cuts away. And then you hear my late husband talking on the phone he's got the phone in the house, the cordless phone out. He's trying to talk to some ham radio operator because he thinks he's seeing what he thinks are northern lights to the north of us. And he's trying to get somebody to confirm what he's seeing. And like the recording, the actual tape jumped 18 minutes. The timer jumped 18 minutes. So here's the time, and then boom, 18 minutes later, it continues on. There's no, and this was in 92. This was in digital stuff. This was an actual physical tape.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the last time that we had seen anything weird happen. And I don't recall. I still, to this day, Jean nor I recall anything else other than seeing this thing walk toward us, and then the next thing, I don't remember where it went, what happened. I don't remember anything still to this day. Neither does she.
So the 18-minute missing time was documented
on this videotape.
So you don't, the 18 minutes of jump on the tape is 18 minutes that you don't remember either.
To this day, no. And neither does as far as I know, neither does Jean. I haven't asked her in years. Maybe I could. She's on my Facebook, and maybe I'll ask her. But, and that was the last time that I recall having any real major anything happen. And again, it was me and other people. I've said many times before, if always my whole life it was only just me, I would definitely be thinking, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
That I'm lost my mind. But it's almost always with somebody else, at least one other person, sometimes more. So it makes it real hard to just write it off as me being nuts.
I meant to ask you this earlier. Was the soil tested in the yard? Did Bud do anything with that? What did Bud have to say about the yard?
Yeah. You have to remember it was several weeks or even couple months before he actually got out there and got his samples. But I can't remember the exact numbers. I always say that I should go look in the book. He either had to be baked in the oven at 800 degrees for 12 hours to get as dehydrated as it was. There wasn't any microbiological life in it, any germs or anything like that. And it was like sterile and no bugs or anything. And it repelled water. I've told many times, I took some chunks of it and put it in glass and left it sit on the counter all night long. And you would think you'd come home back the next morning and you'd have a little pile of mud. But nope, you just got a little chunk of dirt still in there. And snow melted off of that thing for the first year. Whenever when the fall came and the snow would come and we'd get an inch or two, and it would cover up all the grass and you wouldn't be able to see where the mark was. But then 30 minutes later, you'd look out and there it was. The snow literally would just roll. Any moisture would roll off, not only the grass, not only the dirt, but the grass also. And it was like a crop circle in the snow for that first year. Every time it snowed, snow melted off of it.
Yeah, there's no dry soil in Indiana.
Not like that.
No, it doesn't exist.
No.
It doesn't exist. This is so fascinating to me. And
Jimmy, I have still samples. When we sold the house, I got these before the mark actually completely disappeared. So they're really old. And they've got maybe 6 or 7 Ziploc baggies with little chunks of dirt in them. I still have them. They even survived the tornado where I lost almost everything. So
yeah, we left that part out.
There's so much.
You've gone through so much in your life, and I remember. I don't want to get into these details of the private conversation, but I spun around probably a half a dozen times looking at you. How are you even here? How are you sane? Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Oh, I wanted to ask you before we get to the break. The black box, was that ever resolved? The black box, was it ever resolved? Did you ever find out what it was for?
No, unless it had something to do with my near-death experience, very shortly after that, where I found myself actually in a black box.
Right.
No, I don't.
Because the ET, the being, said you would find out one day.
Yeah, they said that when I saw it again, I'd know what it was, and I'd know what to do.
Well, it's not over.
I'm still here.
It's not over. We still have to find that part out. But it was interesting for me to see your reaction when Whitley said, maybe your soul was captured in that for that moment.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? That makes sense. the craziest thing you could possibly think of, and it literally made perfect sense to me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's take our break here, and we'll come back to some overtime. I want to talk about some paranormal stuff. I want to talk about EVPs. I want to talk about your life now and where you are. We'll do all of that next. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Debbie Kauble. It's Fade to Black in the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to forbiddenknowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30daysfree on forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Overtime with Debbie Kauble. You just knew we were going into overtime. There was no way, Debbie. No.
All right. I can come back too.
Yeah.
Anytime.
We're going to do a part 2 and part 3. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your sister, Kathy. You guys co-authored the next book together. And why did you choose to do that? And what were Kathy's experiences?
Well, it actually was the first book.
No, I mean after Intruders.
After Intruders, yeah,
yes.
It was the first one after. It's the one her and I wrote. Actually, I had written that whole book, and it was already finished. And then her and Mom came to me and said, "Hey, Kathy wants to put some stuff in your book." And I'm like, "Well, tell Kathy to write her own book because this one's done." And I kind of got guilted because, I remember I told you I threw her under the bus without her permission.
Right, right.
So I'm like, well, all right. So I took her stuff and I was trying to figure out how to weave, her experiences are quite different than mine in some ways. And she had encounters with a different kind of an entity than I had. She had encounters with like a mantis type, and I did not. And so I was trying to figure out a way to weave her contributions in with mine, and that's how I ended up with the alternating chapter thing that was that first one. And it worked. It worked. But then when, I finally, people were on me for years and years. Oh, you need to revise that and update it. And, because my life had just continued to be weird and crazy from that point on anyway. Well, my sister, she's had a lot of health issues, and now she is really incapacitated and unable to, even if she's had anything new happen, she would not be able to tell us.
She's younger than you?
No, she's 11 years older than me.
Oh, she's 11 years older, and then you have.
I do have a younger sister
that I went to school with.
Yeah, Sherry.
Yes.
And then I have a brother, Bob. They're both younger than me, but not by a whole lot. So.
Right.
But Kathy's the oldest one.
So, the experiences with Kathy, were they after June of 1983?
Kathy's experiences?
Yes.
I think they were, most of them were probably before that. And I know that her one with the Holy Spirit Church, that was back in the 60s.
Right.
So, but And I can't even remember. I'm trying to remember my own experiences, so I don't remember a whole lot about what she wrote afterwards. I know there were some things with her kids when they were small, and she'd seen like a really small alien in their house somewhere, but I don't recall much more than that. Like I said, she's not able to. She's had multiple strokes to the point, and now she has like dementia, so she's in a nursing home and stuff. So when I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this revised edition on my own, that's why I reverted back to the original manuscript. And a lot of that book is in the new one because that's my life. And I can't tell my whole story and leave that big chunk out, because then it already doesn't make sense, but it would really not make sense. So that's why I proceeded the way I did with this second one, Extraordinary Contact, And Kathy got COVID here in 2020, and I just thought that was going to be it. But thank God we're tenacious. We said we've got hairy R white blood in us. That's my dad, and he don't take nothing from nobody, and he's hard headed and stubborn. So she's still there.
Now the paranormal aspect to this, do you feel that everything is connected?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean the paranormal stuff was happening when. Before June 30, 83, and intermixed with the quote unquote alien stuff, for lack of a better way to put it. Because I don't know if they came from some other planet and flew here in a spacecraft, or if they just stepped into this dimension from some other one,
Right.
Yeah.
And you said earlier, and I'm so glad that you pointed this out. You contacted MUFON, and they were about nuts and bolts and spacecraft and photographs and witnesses and things. But as you move along through this journey, you start to figure out things. I certainly have had my own experiences, but I've interviewed and spoken with so many people that now, I mean, the nuts and bolts side of it is real. There's no question about it. I've seen things. Of course. But then you start to see the possibility of, interdimensionality or a parallel world or a crossover in time, that some of this stuff isn't necessarily traveling from another star system to your house, that maybe it's already here and exposing itself. And is that where you are today? That is a certain thing that needs to be discussed? Yes. I mean,
when I first started getting involved with paranormal stuff, and I was so fascinated with the EVP phenomenon, the electronic voice phenomenon, and I recorded an EVP in my kitchen, 30 years ago, at least, with my nephew. And in that recording, it was clear as day. A voice said, "Are the spirits listening?" And another little voice came on behind it. That "Are the spirits listening?" sounded like an old man. And the little voice behind it sounded like a kid and said, "Can I listen too?" And I had immediately my brain just kind of went poof. And I had this epiphany, like it couldn't go poof any more than it already had. But that we're the spirits somewhere, and somebody else is trying to listen to us, somewhere. And then something in my mind just clicked. And I know there was a period of time when I was drawing images I would see in my head and writing phrases and words down that I would bug me till I wrote them down. And one time my kids were in the backyard playing with soap bubbles, and they had this giant wand with 1,000,000 holes in it, and they were like, and my youngest pulls up this wand, and there's this big wad of soap bubbles just all hung there and clung to this. And I had what I called my Roy moment from Close Encounters. Remember when he did the mashed potatoes things with the Wyoming? And I looked at this, and I'm like, I've seen this before. I know what this is. This is universes. These are universes. This is what a universes look like from somewhere far away from them, you know. And then I realized that the universes were like soap bubbles. And you know how soap bubbles kind of touch in little places, and that little place where they touch, they actually become one. And it's a fleeting moment. They don't stay there forever. They slide and move around. But in that little place where they touch, that's where communication can be facilitated. Ever so briefly, it changes and moves because the universe is in this blob of bubbles, undulates and moves and changes. And I mean, I saw this. It just started happening in my head as I'm looking at these soap bubbles. I'm like, damn, yes, you know. So I'm drawing all this stuff down, trying to write it down. Mind you, I have a high school diploma and a beauty school certificate, so this kind of thing is really not my bag, right? I'm doing the best I can with the equipment I have here and the knowledge I have. I don't have good words, I would say. I don't have good words to make you understand what I'm trying to tell you, but I can do it with a soap bubble, you know? So things like that started happening. So I moved closer, more towards the paranormal, because that was a way to get some kind of evidence. I swear I should have sent you some of my, I'm going to send you some of my EVPs, and they will blow your socks off. And, you know, to me, it's just proof of that. When I did the paranormal investigations that I did when I went out on, honestly, I felt like some of the things that I had contact with as an experiencer with the extraterrestrial, or whatever you want to call them, and experience with the paranormal were so much similar that they were like, in my mind, I could see they were the same thing. People were just using different words and different circumstances to describe the same thing, you know? And I'm like, there is a connection here. Now, in 30 years of being when I was an investigator for MUFON for 10 years and then the paranormal researcher, the only common denominator I've found so far is the actual person who's having the experience. But, there's a connection there. And I feel like some of the things that people mistake for spirits or ghosts, I think are maybe things that never lived here, don't even live in this dimension, but are able to come and go sometimes. And the same thing with my experiences with contact with, extraterrestrials or whatever. Some of the things that I saw led me to feel like what I was seeing wasn't something that was flying in from outer space, but rather living in this space with me. And I just can't see them. In my mind, I feel like the human brain is, and I've heard it said before, and I don't know where, but that we're tube-type radios in a Dolby Digital surround sound world. And I'm sitting here in my office right now, and I'm surrounded by Wi-Fi signals from all over the neighborhood, television signals, radio signals, all that. I can't see them. But that doesn't mean they're not there. My brain just isn't manufactured to be able to receive them, so I can't perceive them. But my television is made to receive the television signal, and I can watch TV on it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, I think people who've had the experiences I've had and the early physical contact has somehow flipped a switch in me, facilitated me, to be able to perceive things that maybe other people can't. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm saying that people like me who've had these experiences, like I've either by genetics or by external stimulation have like grown an extra couple circuits somewhere. And I think that's why Mom and I could see that giant triangle that nobody else in Indianapolis apparently could see. Although I'll bet you there were people out there who did. But who are they going to tell? So we didn't hear about them. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. And what do you make of today where, before, I'm gonna save that question for last. When Whitley and you were talking about Whitley's experiences and where he wasn't sure, and I was so fat, I was watching you two discuss this, that he wasn't entirely sure that his contact experiences are even ET, right? That it could be just us later on where we go to next.
Exactly. And, I mean, I've had experience with people that I love who have, I call them, they've shed this meat sack full of water and moved on. They've passed away, but I've had contact with them, and it's happened in front of other people. Like when my mom, the night my mom died at 11:30 in the morning. At 1:30 in the morning that following morning, her picture literally leapt off the wall in the stairwell, rolled down the stairwell, sat straight up at the end of the stair, woke my husband and I up. We went running out there. The nail was still in the wall. The frame was still intact. And Mom and I had this conversation, and she said that if she was able to show me that what I was thinking was correct, really was, she would do her best to show me. And she did. And I was so excited. And there were a lot of things like that happened from Mom and my late husband and other friends I've had that crossed over. And like my little sister said, well, how come Mom didn't come to me? Or how come, and my brother. And I'm like, did you ask her? Well, no. I said, if she did, would you crap yourself and have a stroke? Well, yes. And I'm like, well, hello, there you go.
Such a fascinating experience with that picture frame and the picture of your mom. Okay. Here we are today in 2021. You went through all of this with Bud and Intruders and sharing your experience and things. But here we are now, 35 years later. This is now 2021. UFOs are everywhere, right? You can't turn on and off the TV without seeing something on the news or something in the newspaper, something online, whether it's the Senate or the United States Navy or leaked videos and pilots coming forward. Now it's a discussion that seems pretty normal. What goes through your mind now?
I think back 38 years ago when that happened. And I think about how hard it was to even reach out to Bud, and then what a struggle it was to decide to allow a book to be written about us, as a collective, my family and I, and then how hard it was for me to step up on that stage for the first time and feel like I was about to have a heart attack and feel embarrassed about what I was about to tell them because I knew how crazy it sounded, and now. As you pointed out, it's totally, people have changed, times have changed, the attitude toward it has changed. You can go to Walmart and buy a t-shirt with alien on it, and it's cool. People pay hundreds of dollars to go out and try to have an experience like I had, And I know a lot of people were disappointed when the 9-page thing came out, but not me, because I've been on the receiving end of that stick for a long, long time. And I know that, I see people's reaction to this, and they're like, yeah, we are, especially the young people, like, yeah, we already know it's real. They're not going to be satisfied with just that 8 pages. I am, just because I'm not satisfied with it, but I'm happy to see it because they're not laughing at it. They didn't say it wasn't extraterrestrial. They didn't say what it was, but they didn't say it wasn't. And they could have easily said, well, we don't, we have enough information. We know that it's not that, but they didn't say that. And then I see these young pilots come on TV and say, we've been seeing these things off the East Coast for the last 2 years, almost every day. And a pilot, in my eyes, pilots are impeccable in their credibility. These are people that defend our country every day.
Professional witnesses.
Absolutely. And they're saying they see these things every day. So I feel hopeful, and I have I feel a little bit of vindication. Obviously they're not, saying that what I'm reporting is, they're confirming it, but still it's a big giant shift in the paradigm of humanity. And I feel it's going in the right direction. And I look back and I remember the past and I think, okay, baby steps, it's good. Baby steps is fine. We're going in the right direction. So that's what I feel, how I feel about all this.
Now, with the other experiencers, of which there's millions, right?
Millions.
Yeah, millions around the world that have been trying to be heard. I feel that they now have a legitimate voice, and they are able to speak about this now, where most have never talked about it at all to their family, loved ones. They've kept it all inside. And if you were going to say something to those experiencers, what would it be?
Well, it would be that I know how you feel. And I can tell you, I feel like for every one person out there like me who's actually speaking out about their experience, whatever it might be, there's probably 500,000, or there's probably 150,000 more that have had the same kind of experience I've had, and maybe more, and haven't said anything. And I just want them to know that it's not as bad as it used to be. Times have changed. Don't be afraid to speak out. You're going to be surprised at how much support you have, and I'm trying to pay it forward. I was fortunate in that I had not only had Bud for so many years, but I had the support of my entire family, most all my friends, people I worked with, everything. Nobody ever doubted us because we all experienced it. So we had each other. So many people out there that have had these experiences don't have that. And part of my whole thing with coming out publicly and speaking about all the weird stuff that's happened in my life was to pay it forward and to be there for other people and to help be a bridge for them to come out and speak about what's been going on with them. I just would tell them, don't be afraid, trust yourself, trust your instincts. Don't be afraid to speak out and stand up for yourself. And you're not alone. By far, you're not alone.
You mentioned your son. He's now 42, smart, brilliant. But there's a lot of talk, Deb, about, this human hybrid program and the possibility of this being a reality today. And there's a lot of people coming forward and speaking about this. Did you ever feel that your son may have had something to do with that?
I don't know. I mean, it's a miracle that we're both alive. Neither one of us should have survived, and I had a less of a chance of survival than he did. So I don't know. I mean, to me, anything's possible. My mind is going to stay open. I had that previous pregnancy before I got pregnant with him that pretty much disappeared. And I was confirmed pregnant by my doctor and carried on for several months as a pregnant person, and then woke up one morning after an absolutely insane dream. Then there was something wrong with my baby, and I ended up going back to have another pregnancy test that was at that point negative. So I don't know what all that means. I have my dreams, I call them dreams, of seeing different hybrid child, but I don't know. I can't prove anything, and it sounds absolutely insane. So it stays where it is as it is, and that's how I live with it. But I do believe that there was some kind of alien intervention in humans long ago that created who we are now. I mean, we're alien. I think we're all alien hybrids, frankly. And who's to say? Honestly, it's the way people act sometimes. I think we need to have a readjustment. So I think it's time for them to come back and tweak us a little bit, So maybe that's what it is all about. I don't know. I'm going with everything.
I want to share this with you. I didn't say anything about this earlier, but so last week, Richard and I were outside of the hotel talking about the week ahead. And I said, blah, 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 blah. And Debbie Kauble is going to be here this afternoon. Debbie Kauble? And I said, yes. He goes, Church, have you met her? I said, no. And he goes, she is the coolest person ever. And this is what he said to me. He said, 10 years ago, we hung out. And I got to tell you, I cannot wait to see her again. And this is just going to be an amazing week. And to watch him, Debbie, get so excited about this. And then, of course, we met, and I understand exactly what Richard was trying to say to me. But watching you guys reunite and see each other again, and the experience I had with you last week and then leading up to this show, it's just been extraordinary. You are an extraordinary person, and don't change.
Well, I appreciate that. I am so thankful to have met you. I'm always thankful to meet everyone I meet, because I feel like in my life, whenever I take a little bit of you with me when I go home. And so, I'm just grateful for all the opportunity I've had and everything. And I just want to help as many people as I can on the way, I'm a work in progress. I'm still learning every day. Until I check out, I'm still going to be a work in progress. But, I'm grateful for people like Rich and all those guys who just embraced me and were so kind to me. They have, you don't have an idea what that kindness means to a person, for real.
Thank you so much, Debbie. You are truly amazing. And I look forward to the next time that you're on the show. And that's going to be a paranormal show. We're going to do EVPs, ghost, and dead people. Right? Let's do that.
Right on.
Deb, enjoy the rest of your night. The best to you and your family. Thank you so much. What a great, great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie Kauble. And with that, I've got to go straight to credits. We did overtime. We did everything tonight. Debbie, thank you so much. Be safe out there.
You too.
Debbie Kauble. Wow, what a conversation. Now, I want to remind everybody what's going on tomorrow night, live from Australia. Ross Coulthard is joining us. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great night on the show. I want to thank Debbie Kauble. Extraordinary conversation. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Debbie Kauble. Tomorrow night, Ross Coulthard. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until then, everybody be safe. It's time to fade to black.